Hey everybody, Tom from Hollandspiele here, and here with me today is our Executive Vice President of knocking game bits off the table. When we first got into the hobby, there wasn't a lot of attention on heavier games, and it didn't feel like there was much of a market for it, to the point that I tried for several years to find a publisher for my game 4X, and no one really wanted to touch it. That's changed. The last 2-3 years, there's been a lot more attention focused on heavy games. And a big part of that has been heavy cardboard. We'll provide reviews, playthroughs, teaching videos for heavier games, making it easier for people to find out about these games and make them more accessible. So much so that I'm able to publish a game like 4X. And Mary and I are able to do this full time and pay our mortgage and pay for the expensive catnip habits of our essential personnel. Personnel. P-U-R. You see what I did there? I shouldn't be proud of that. Now, Edward and Amanda at Heavy Cardboard, they're dog people. And I'm going to try not to hold that against them too much, but come on guys, dogs. But they're good people. And they provide an essential service to the gaming community. And if you feel like that's something that you want to support, I would urge you to become a Patreon today. And that's it. Plain.
Well, that was fun. Well, I thought it was funny. So thanks to Tom Russel for being willing to send that to us in support of the Patreon job. So hi, everybody. I appreciate y'all's patience since we got started hella late. I'll be honest, this took a lot longer to set up than I ever anticipated it taking. And the reason for the hat today, by the way, because I've been sick again. Yep, we'll get into that. But haven't gotten a haircut, and yeah, that's way too long, so that's got to go. All right. So anyway, here we are. So hopefully today's fun for you guys as well as for me. I hope it goes well. We'll see how it goes. So welcome to the HCHQ library tour, and thanks everybody for joining us, and by us I mean the royal us, me. Hi, sporting a Hunter and Crone shirt today, fellow reviewer / YouTuber fellas over in Germany. Got to meet one of them at Gen Con. Looking forward to seeing them again at Essen, so cool. Trying to spread the love. Yeah, so I'm excited about this, but I'm nervous because I took pictures. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. All right. So the original plan was to do the results of the massive survey that we sent out and offered for folks to do this summer, I guess you could call it. However, I think this is going to run long enough. So I'm actually, as soon as this is done, about 10 or 15 minutes later, I'm going to live stream the survey results as well as the winners for the 5 giveaways that we did. So let's say 15 minutes after this is done so I can have a banana and get some more medicine. So this might be an hour, might be 2 hours. I don't know. You guys will dictate how long you want this to go on for and how long you want me to ramble about our games. So if you're interested in the survey and all that stuff, it's going to be 15 minutes after this. Cool? Good? All right? Good. All right. So on to the tour. Let's talk about this. So people have asked for, hey, you periscoped, you meaning me. When we finished the basement and everything, we periscoped a tour of the basement, but we haven't really done anything in regards to the actual library and talking about the games in our collection and all that stuff. And enough people have asked me that I was like, well, why don't we do it this week? Cool. So here we are. So that's what we're doing today. I apologize ahead of time. The 18XX games, the Martin Wallace collection, the Splatter collection, and the newest arrivals, those are going to get their own video because this is going to be long enough. Plus, this isn't actually in the library room. They're actually out in the main gaming area. So next week, the week after, I'll be doing that. So sorry, Joe. I know you wanted to harass me about my 18XX collection, but you cannot do that today. You will have to come back for the next one. Sorry. All right. Yeah. So let's see what else. The last thing is I was going to do a video tour. Now, obviously, you guys can see I'm in the studio. And because we decided to live stream this, because I wanted that interaction with you guys, I didn't want to have to move everything downstairs because that would be a massive undertaking. Not saying you guys aren't worth it, but with me still recovering from this 7-week sickness, whatever, I wasn't up for that. So I decided, I just went down and took pictures, and then we're going to bring them up on the screen, and then we'll talk about them going around the library. So hopefully that's okay with you guys. I thought that would be the best way to do it. I hope. The other reason is I didn't have a stabilizer for the main camera, although I'll be honest, it has a really good optical stabilizer anyways. I didn't want to take the chance of making y'all dizzy and having to always pause the video. Oh, hey, can you go back to that video, to that part of the, and I was like, yeah, I just don't want to deal with that. So we're doing it via pictures, but it does cover the entire library. So there's that. All right. So in general, just to let you guys know, it's organized kind of with a common theme that changes throughout the library. It's not perfectly consistent, but it makes sense to us. So that said, I am very curious about A, how you guys store your collection, and B, how you organize it. Because we've had ideas of, do we do it by color? Then you have to remember what color box is dominant species. So that's not the best. Do it by player count, best player count. And we were like, you know what? Mostly did it by publisher or by designer or like theme, like Civ Games, stuff like that. So that'll be, yeah. So I'm curious when the video's over, whether you're a patron, you want to hit us up on Slack, or you want to send us an email, contact@heavycardboard, or just comment below. I'm genuinely curious how you guys organize your collections, because there's no perfect way, because there's just no perfect way, and I'm curious. So this is the best way that we have found. Again, not perfect. All right, enough caveats, enough stalling. Last thing, ask questions. Otherwise, why the hell am I doing this live, right? I mean, there's a reason. I mean, granted, we do most of our stuff live. I get that. But I want to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your questions, and all that. And the first little bit, when we talk about the Wargames, it's going to be a whole lot of haven't gotten to it yet. But whatever. All right, enough about that, okay? All right, so let's do this, and I hope this looks good. Before we get started, though, if your internet can handle it, change it over to 1080p 60. That way you guys can see it and make it full screen. Because again, it's pictures. It's not going to be the entire screen, but they're most of the screen, and they'll change whether portrait or landscape, whatever worked. So you can harass me underneath, down below, or live if you want about that. All right. So I didn't mean in the chat. I meant in the comments, how you organize your game. So people can see that afterwards too, right? Well, I guess they can, but you know what I mean. I'm sick. Leave me alone. HeavyCon mug. All right. Enough stalling. Let's do it. All right. So first and foremost, this is going to be what it looks like. All right. So that is the entrance into our gaming library. So if you did happen to see our periscope of the entire basement, I'm standing in the main game area here, and we wanted kind of a French door to where it was glass, though, to where if people were in there playing a game because it was too loud in the main gaming area or whatever, whenever we had 3-4 games going on, they could shut the door but still feel a part of game day. So that was the logic behind that. All right. yeah, so there's that. So next, and I don't have a perfect way to switch between pictures, so I'm just going to do it like this and see how this works. So that is with the window or the French doors open, and that's what it looks like. So we have, now this is technically a bedroom because the last pictures that you guys are going to see over on the far right of when you walk in here is a closet. It just doesn't have doors. We did that so we can say it's a fifth bedroom in case we ever sell it, the house. We're not going to sell the house. Yeah, all right, so there's that. So next is a little bit of a panoramic. So let's see how this works here. Hold on, sorry. Yeah, there we go. Let's bring that one back up to the top. There we go. So you can kind of see the chat a little bit. So that's kind of a panoramic of the entire game library, all right? So as you walk into the doors, over on the left, you have Wargames, then you have the window, then more Wargames and some other stuff. Then that main back wall over there, kind of in the center of the picture, is going to be the main wall, I guess. And then the closet is the thing over to the right. And so, yeah. So there's that. Cool. All right. As we get into specific areas, then I will start going over the chat and everything as you guys ask questions. Okay? Cool? All right. All right. So there is that. So I'm going to have to make sure that I don't lose my space here. There we go. So that is the first section of Wargames, and we're going to do it top half by bottom half. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys an overall that is, I would say, 2/3 of the Wargames that are in our collection. So let's go ahead and dig into them now, shall we? All right. So here we have the top 6 shelves. These are all, you'll notice a theme. That theme, GMT. And there's more. So I sort of got these done chronologically. It's not perfect for those saying, oh, the Peloponnesian War came before or after. So it's roughly chronological. Okay, it's not perfect. Within GMT. And there are some oddballs there. Obviously, Pacific Typhoon can't fit. And, you know, the Illusions of Glory is over there with the other Of Glory series. You see Pericles. It's in the wrong spot. It's down there in World War II stuff. I had to make it fit. That's it. All right. All right. So let's see. All right. So confession time. So people call it a shelf of shame, right? I'm not ashamed that I haven't played most of these. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm okay with that. I bought these. Now, this is interesting to note as well. I would still say 3/4 or so of our collection we bought secondhand. All right. So when we first got into this hobby, which was September of 2012 or 2013, the years are starting to run together. One of those. Within that first year, we had bought 500 games. Well, we had 6. So we went to 6 to 500 in that first game or first year. Almost all these were bought via secondhand BGG auctions. And I would research the heck out of these things. And I would, oh, this sounds interesting and it's well thought of. And if I could buy a whole bunch within an auction to save on shipping and to get like bulk discount stuff, I did. We went a little crazy, and by we, I mean this guy. Thankfully, I have a very patient and understanding wife, which I'm grateful for. So yeah, so a lot of these were bought back in the day. I just haven't gotten to them yet. I will, eventually. Everything that's on these shelves, I will. And also, if you see it in shrink, doesn't necessarily mean I haven't played it. Just means I haven't played our copy. We have friends. They have copies. It happens. So there's that. All right. So let's see here. Let's favorite Civil War games. Honestly, I haven't played many of them, but of the ones that I have played, U.S. Civil War by GMT, far and away. Gorgeous map, clever design, and it doesn't take, you you can play it in a single session, which isn't necessarily a disqualifier for others. I just haven't played that many. So U.S. Civil War, I think, is my favorite that I have played thus far. Kevin asks, is secondhand purchasing evil? By default, no. Does it undercut sales and thus lower sale count? Don't encourage publishers to reprint, etc. I'm of the mind that if somebody owns a copy of the game, it's theirs to do however they wish, right? Whether it's me or you or anyone else. And honestly, a lot of these at the time were either out of print or I just got them cheaper. Now, I don't see it as an evil, and I don't think any publisher would see it as an evil as well. I don't think it hurts the hobby because this just in, the hobby is healthier than it ever has been in the history of the hobby. So I don't see it as a problem. Phil says that if anything, secondhand games can go for more money than reprints because of scarcity, which is true. Or in the case of stuff like Command and Colors, if it's stickered. I mean, it was pretty funny. Like anytime I go to a live auction and there are multiple copies of like a Command and Colors or anything that has a ton of blocks that you have to sticker or anything like that, the new and shrink copies go for X amount and the stickered copies go for X amount plus, because this way people don't have to spend an hour, 3 hours stickering their copy. So there's that too, right? Julian, I know Julian's big on Republic of Rome. He sees it up there. He wants us to play it. I promise maybe at some point, and at some point means between now and 2024, we will get it played on the live stream. Do I ever think it'll be reprinted? I really don't think there's a huge demand for it. It's a big monster Richard Berg game that I just don't see it. I just don't see the demand for it. Dean asks, Andy says, my GMT shelf is 4 games and one's 1846. Mine's a little bigger, but maybe you're not a war gamer, Andy. We know that. That's okay. Dean asks, do you have a cap in your collection size? Nope. Now, we do sell games, and we do trade games. We do giveaways, obviously. There's going to be a number. We'll get to a shelf that is these might be leaving the collection, unsure yet, area. So we'll get there when we get there, and we'll talk more about that then. Comancheria or Navajo Wars? Travis would be a better person to answer on that. I've heard a lot of good things about Comancheria, that it basically has taken the Navajo Wars system and made it a little bit more streamlined in a good way. So I haven't played either of them. So this is all secondhand. But from everything I've heard, a lot of people are really enjoying Comancheria. So there's that. Is it worth having a look at campaign for North Africa, or is that madness? Julian, I would say just go ahead and take a look at it on BGG. I mean, that's one that I just have no interest in, and I can't imagine a lot of people have a lot of interest in, just because that is arguably, a 10-year game for one game. All right, so let's move on to the bottom half of this shelf now. So that top half is all GMT. Next, there we go. So this is the bottom half there. So you can see more of the more modern GMT games. And let me go ahead and head it off before it comes. Oh, I thought you were tired of coin games. Why do you have some of the newer coin games in there? I want to like the system. And it could be that we haven't played it enough to really get the nuances and get to a spot to where we're comfortable with the system more than I have been. So I want to enjoy it. I like the concept of the coin system. We just need to get it to the table more to actually make a definitive opinion on it. So that heads that off. Then obviously Twilight Struggle, 1989, Labyrinth, CDGs. I haven't played Space Empires 4X yet. I really want to. You see the expansion just next to it. Time of Crisis, obviously we did a playthrough of that. We are quite enamored with that one. Let's see, catch up on the chat here. Eater or Etter, I'm not sure which that is. Patron, thank you. What would be your recommendation for an antiquity war game? I would have to ask how many players first. Marlon asks, when's the pick one game from your collection giveaway, Edward? That might be up there when with the tattoo, when we hit 1,000 patrons. We'll consider it, but I don't know. We'll see. How do I feel about ASL, Julian asks. That is very much a lifestyle game. I know I have friends who absolutely love the game, and I have zero interest in that game for two reasons, honestly. One, it is the epitome of tactical. I'm not a big tactical war gamer. I mean, as you can see, there's not a ton of tactical war games in my collection. I'm more strategic level, maybe some operational, which kind of fits in with what we have here. That's why there's not a lot by way of like Combat Commander. There's a couple in there, but I have a friend who he's been on the show before, Brian, whose favorite game is Combat Commander. I just don't like tactical war games. The other reason that don't want to go into ASL is the level of detail that it goes into for what is still ultimately an abstraction just doesn't appeal to me. When a rule book has binders, plural, that doesn't interest me. It's just not my cup of tea. But for those that enjoy it, God bless them. Play it. Absolutely. Enjoy. Play what you dig, right? Next War Korea. Yeah, so I have a couple of the Next War games, which I don't know how interested in those I am. Those were bought a while back. P500 did. And I just don't know if I'm up for it. Maybe down the road. I want to be into it. I just don't know if I am. So, yeah. First coin game. Let's see. John asks, I'm assuming he means what is the first coin game that that I would recommend? Two questions, and then you can kind of answer your own question when you answer these. Number one, what theme or what time period or what, not scenario, but you understand what I'm saying, most interests you, number one. And number two, do you have 3 dedicated friends, or how many dedicated friends or game group folk do you have that would be willing to indulge that? Because let's face it, yes, you can play with less than 3 or 4 for a coin game, but it's at its best. Maybe 3 players for Cuba Libre, to where the fourth, the bot player is the mafia, or I forget the actual term that faction is. I know, is it Colonial Twilight that's either just out or is coming out, that's a 2-player coin. But honestly, 4 players and pick what theme you enjoy most. I think that would be the best jumping off point. Some are easier than others, I've heard. I've played Indian Abyss was our first one, and I think that was a fine jumping off point. Pretty interesting story on that. After the first day we played Indian Abyss, the next day I'm just surfing the net, whatever, and I'm reading about the FARC guerrillas down in Colombia did an offensive, and I was like, that's so surreal. So we just not simulated, but we just played this situation that's still going on down there. And I was like, that is just that real life, or art imitating life, life imitating art, whichever you want to call it. That was pretty crazy. A Distant Plane, I dig. I like the idea of a modern one like that, as well as Andean Abyss. And last but not least, I'm partial to the Vietnam time period. My dad served in Vietnam. He was a twin 50 gunner on a PBR boat down on a Mekong. And I played, I think it's in this picture, somewhere in there. It's, oh, great. Now I can't think of it. I can't think of the name, so we'll just move on. But it was pretty cool to see that they had reconnaissance boats and patrol boats on the Mekong Delta, and I was like, this shit represents my dad. That was kind of surreal and not touching, but made it really come to life, I guess. So anyway, moving on. Thunder Alley actually is out in the we should play that soon area that's outside the library. Really enjoyed Thunder Alley except for the ending of the game or the ending of the race. I much prefer the way a game like Turf Master works. Like whoever finishes, because it's all simultaneous, right? Whoever finishes further across the finish line at the end of a race, in theory, just nosed out the competition at the finish line. So the ending I wasn't super keen on, but still enjoyed the game overall. Conflict of Heroes, Tony, maybe, because Conflict of Heroes, again, is that tactical two-player, really, just real tactical game. I don't know if we're going to ever review it or do a playthrough of it. I won't say no, though. Fair? Because I know I could always get Brian over here, and he would be a happy participant for the second player on that. Duel in the Dark is in English, but also, I think, in Dutch or German, I think. That was one of the first games we bought, actually. Distant Plane for the coin, Mira, I heard is definitely one of the harder ones to get your feet wet if you're not familiar with the coin system. But it's not impenetrable. The histo, I'm not sure. We will see when we get there. Wir sind das Volk. I enjoyed it more than Tony did in our review, and I'm actually looking forward to checking out the 2+2 expansion to where it becomes a 4-player game. I want to see how they handled that, so looking forward to that. And Brad, if you didn't hear, Thunder Alley is actually out in the main gaming area, so you'll see that next video. You can check our review for Wir sind das Volk for our take, even though I believe we are the exception to the rule on our opinions on that. Oh, wow. I am way behind on chat. I apologize, guys. I am not as good. I'm much more verbose than Amanda is. We do not have Twilight, Colonial Twilight yet, Alexander. I appreciate all the plugs for the Patreon drive, guys. Very nice, Dave. If you can afford it, there should... I just don't like the idea of a shelf of shame. If you can afford this luxury, which is the entire hobby, right? I mean, you don't need this to survive. Semantics or, being literal here. Then there's no such thing as a shelf of shame. This is just your collection, right? Right. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. I apologize, guys. Yeah, the Pendragon art for the latest coin. Ooh, that was a poor choice, in my opinion. It's all like 3D rendered. Doesn't look good. I enjoy winsome games, which those will be in the next video. I enjoy very plain, boring, ugly, some people would say, games. So art really doesn't influence me when it comes to turning me off from a game. Now, it can definitely make a game you can enjoy a game more. I mean, you guys know I'm a huge Ian O'Toole fanboy, and I love his artwork in games. So whenever he does a game, I'm interested in the game just by the artwork alone. But poor or lack of art doesn't bother me. But man, that Pendragon art, that might be a first. You guys are going to see a game later that we live stream later this week, Metropolis or Metropolis. Horrible board art. Awesome game. Love the game. So there's that. But yeah, Pendragon. Ooh, when they looked at it and said, this is a good idea. I love GMT, but Yes, that is Arkwright. You'll see it in here. That's going to be coming for a live stream in the next 2 weeks, as is Container. All right, let me catch up, guys, and we'll keep moving. All right, let's just move on to the next shelf, which really the next shelf really is not a shelf, although there are a few games on there. So I apologize. The color got a little wonky from the sunlight outside, so that's on me. Sorry. So a few games on this. So over on, oh, yeah, you don't really need to see what's under the chat. There's just nothing there. So obviously there's Twilight Struggle right there on top. We have the prototype for the second edition of Railroads, which if you guys listen to the podcast in the Daily Diaries at WBC, I talked about the second edition, which I don't believe funded, but he may end up running another Kickstarter for. We enjoyed it much more with the revised rules. It's way overproduced in the best way possible. It's all a huge wooden board, wooden tiles. It's all laser cut. It's pretty fancy, pretty nice. This copy of Three Kingdoms Redux is the original, and that has a very, very high sentimental value for Amanda and I and Tony, as it were, because that is our very first review copy that we ever got in the history of heavy cardboard. And so even though we have the new version from Capstone Games, that copy of Three Kingdoms Redux will forever be in our possession because of what it represents and the awesome people behind that game, both designers and publishers, Christina and Youster. So yeah, big, huge sentimental value on that. Then down on the shelf, excuse me. Then on the shelf below are a couple of our Civ games that we really, really dig. And that is obviously Imperios Millenarios, who the designer is in chat. Hi. And Mega Civ, which is a reimagining, evolution, I think. Yeah, evolution is a better word, of Advanced Civ. Plays 18 players. We played 14, 15 at the HeavyCon 2. That was pretty cool. So glad I got a copy of that, even though it doesn't hit table, but maybe once or twice a year. Oh yeah, Andy, Amanda is much better at handling the chat than I am. But, you know, if you're at work, hopefully it's making your workday a little bit better. Space Monkey, see you in June. Says, any series of war games would you like to get into? OCS, SCS. You know what? I will hold that question for just a minute when we move on to the next shelf, and I'll be able to answer that a little bit better, actually. Reynold, honestly, for questions on ranking stuff like that, join me Thursday on the AMA on Reddit and ask that, and I would be happy to answer that there. Cool? Oh, okay. So it is Is. So Metropolis. Okay. The Y. I know it's Istari, but all right, we'll go Metropolis. Cool. All right. All right. How horrible. I'm not terribly behind. Awesome. All right. So let's move on to the next one. So this is the end of the war games here. We're going to break it down by shelves. But basically, it is the top 3 shelves are war games. I put that in quotes. I mean, obviously, there's Twilight Struggle back before and everything else. Tony, appreciate the kind words. Thank you. So, yeah, okay, that just kind of shows the whole shelf, and then we'll break it down. So let's go ahead and break it down. All right. So these top 3 shelves here are the last of the war games. So to get back to Space Monkey's question on what series would I like to get into when it comes to war games, because SES, OCS, these are different kind of, just series of games. And honestly, the 2 that I most want to get into are actually right here in front of you. They're at the very top shelf. So the Blocks in the series, we have messed around with a little, but we have not gotten into them nearly as much as I really want to. And that is from a publisher called Vento Nuovo Games from Italy, I believe. And Emmanuel is the publisher and designer, and he did Blocks in the East, Blocks in the West, Blocks in Africa, and coming soon is Blocks in the Pacific, to where you could, if you're sick like some of us are, put them all together and make one stupid monster game, which that just sounds awesome, doesn't it? That said, he also did like Moscow 41 and some other smaller ones. I think Germany 1914 or something like that, which I don't have and I really want. Really want to get into that series. So that is my number 1 war game series that I want to get into. The second really isn't like an OCS or SCS, and that's just the Paths of, or of Glory. So the GMT ones that we showed earlier, Paths of Glory especially. I blame Dan Carlin's series on World War I to really get me chomping at the bit to get into that. And the last one that that's high on my list is the Engulfed. It's only 2 games for a series, so I don't know if you really want to call that a series, but the Europe Engulfed 2nd edition and the Asia Engulfed. I'm big on block games, in case you guys haven't figured that out. So all of those on the top shelf and the left half of the second shelf are all block war games. I'm a really big fan of those. I'm not a huge fan of Stacks O Chits, and I think that's part of why, like Next War Korea, I'm a little apprehensive about stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me answer the question real quick, because I missed that. So, back up one more. Sorry. Okay, real quick. Also, I talked about the games. Basket here are accessories, and down below, that basket over with all the kind of clear white stuff, those are all baggies. There's about 7,000 baggies over there. And in the bottom left there is all our sleeves in that little green box. So, okay, cool. Now that we did that, let's get back to what we were talking about. Sorry about that, guys. Who is on dusting duty for all the shelves and box tops? Mostly, well, Dana. So we have roommates. I mean, most of y'all know this. Matt and Dana. Dana's writing her first Great American novel, and Matt is supporting them, and we're being friends and charging them a sweetheart rate to stay with us for the last, year. I don't know. So when her book's published, hopefully it goes great and she's the next J.K. Rowling. I know J.K.'s European or English, British. Comes from the island. Anyway, so Dana usually dusts, but doesn't really do the games. That's up to me if I remember. So that, or if, like, for one of my birthday presents, Amanda bought me a house cleaner. Not bought me, because that'd be slavery, right? Indentured servitude or something. That's weird. Brought in a house cleaner. There you go, to tidy up the house back in June. So that was cool. That was really nice. Let's see. Eric, just be careful. Appreciate you joining us. All y'all, for that matter. I appreciate y'all joining. This is fun for me. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let's see. Wilbert asks, what do you think of Band of Brothers as a way to get into war games? I've heard it's wonderful to do so. I have looked at it. Own it. Haven't played it. But again, it's a tactical war game. So if you like that whole unit to unit, like Combat Commander, stuff like that, I've heard really good things. However, it's tactical, so it's not really my cup of tea. Scottish, I apologize. Thank you for the correction, Tony. All right. Okay, so let's move down now to the second shelf. So there are all the Columbia block war games. Those are also really excellent to get into for new war gamers. And again, kind of like the coin series, you can choose what theme suits you the best, that interests you the best. There's Julius Caesar. There's Richard III. There's not Martin Wallace. That's funny. William Wallace, Hammer of the Scots. So, and there's a few others that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. Block war games. The awesome thing about this line of war games that Columbia Games does, when they design these games, or the designers bring this to them, they're limited to 8 pages of rules. That's it. So it's really simple war game scale. It's still, there's still some meat, but if you play the types of games that we enjoy and that I assume y'all enjoy, then this series of block war games be perfect jumping off spot, and you guys be able to tackle it no problem. It plays in an afternoon. And the cool thing about it is there's that fog of war. And what I mean by that is you have blocks. So you see your blocks, you see the backs of your opponent's blocks. So you see there's blocks there, but you don't know what or what strength or anything like that. You just see there are blocks. And really, really, I am a huge fan of those. The only reason we haven't streamed those, and this actually could go back to GMT's Sekigahara also, is we have to figure out a way to manipulate the cameras to be able to show everything, the blocks. The overhead obviously isn't going to work because you have to have that hidden from your opponent, so you can't turn them all face up. So we're still manipulating, figuring out a way, as well as, and this is a big deal to me, I don't want you guys to be able to ever see a camera or a microphone outside of when we podcast in a studio like this. It just seems unpolished and unprofessional, and I just don't want to present that. So once we figure out the best way, whether it's off the camera bar that we have up top, or whether it's off of tripods, whatever, we're figuring that out. When we do, we're going to live stream some block war games, me and Brian, and me and some of the other folks, hopefully me and Amanda as well, on a weekend or on a Wednesday. So I'm super excited to get some of those to the table, to show those off, to bring more people into wargaming. I think that would be really, really cool. So yeah. Kyle says, Edward, I'm enjoying, but also feeling inferior. Dude, that's silly. It doesn't matter if your collection is one game. Who cares? Plus, keep in mind, we have a show to produce, so it's getting close to being my livelihood. So kind of have to, right? I mean, I imagine like when I worked on aircraft, I had to buy a toolbox. I had to buy all the tools and do all that stuff. So compared to somebody that just has a small little bag of tool, nothing to be inferior, but that's silly. Stop that. All right, so let's move over to the right side of that shelf. You see there's Maria, there's Hands in the Sea, which is built upon the A Few Acres of Snow from Martin Wallace, but definitely fixes some issues on it. And hold on, I gotta squint. Oh, Hannibal, Rome versus Carthage, which the new version is coming. I'm really, really excited about that. I know technically Antique and Antique 2 aren't war games, but they kind of filled the spot over there. So that's where that kind of, ish to where they're all kind of organized. like that. So there's that. And obviously there's 1714, Case for the Catalans, España, 1936 as well. And if you look up in the top shelf, in the top right corner, there's Polis, the fight for the hegemony. One of my all-time favorite two-player games that I don't know a reason why we don't play this more. This has to be live streamed and turn people onto that. The second edition is actually, I think, more widely available from Mercury Games, so that has to happen as well. I'm not seeing the wondrous Sekigahara. Did we not show it on the GMT? It's there. I promise. It's there. Pinky swear. And if it's not there, it's in the house. I have no idea where it'd be then. That's a little worrisome. But yes, we have Sekigahara. How do you get through so many heavy manuals? Well, that's part of the reason I haven't played a lot of the war games that I own yet, Julian, is because I don't have the time. I haven't made the time for it. But when we start getting into the Euros, ask me that again, and I'll be able to answer that a little clearer. Cool. Oh, okay, cool. It was there. All right. Phew, good. I was all like, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to run downstairs and take a look. All right, so let's move on down. I think I can. Do I remember a game called Zargos? That's news to me. Never heard of it. So for those watching, Joe Wiggins, the one of the hosts or the lead host or the guy who runs the Deep End podcast, which good show. I'm enjoying it, fellas. He is not a war gamer, does not like Sekigahara, does not like Time of Crisis, which there's nothing wrong with that, but at least he acknowledges he's not a war gamer. And okay, but hey, for those of us that are, easy. Yeah, so the Case for the Catalans, that's kind of crazy. So that's back in, it's set in 1714, right? And if you guys are following the news, that's kind of getting revisited right now, right? With the Catalonia trying to do a referendum to secede from Spain. I'm telling you, life imitating art, right? Yeah, Polis, the fight for the hegemony. I'm glad that got brought up. I'm going to make a note. Polis, to make sure that we play that more and get it on a live stream. How do I remember the intricate rules of all these war games when you haven't played them in a while? Honestly, a couple of things. When we get around to live streaming them, I kind of make a teaching outline for myself on how to go about teaching y'all watching how to play the game. And so I use that to refresh my own memory on that. And also, again, kind of like I was saying earlier, I haven't played a ton of them, but those that I have, I'm relatively close to this becoming my job. And that's kind of my livelihood depends on me being able to do that. So I just make it a priority. This might sound dumb or whatnot, but I don't watch a lot of TV. We cut the cord. And honestly, I think I have a pretty good memory for this stuff. I used to play poker for a living until the government took it away online. And so I have a pretty good knack for details on stuff like this. And plus, just refresh the rules the day before you're going to play. That helps. So there's that. Pizza says, do you mind giving me your address and next time your entire family leaves for vacation? I'm asking because I want to come clean your house. There's a reason we have a P.O. box as the address on our website. Oh, one of the reasons, at least. Yeah. Welcome, Cabrellicus. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And we are almost finished with the first of 3 walls. There we go. All right, so this one, I'm going to move the chat down just a hair, just so you can see Phoenicia right there. Phoenicia. Phoenicia. All right, go with it. All right, so this shelf, the top shelf there, that shelf, that middle, and so actually the top and middle shelf that you guys are looking at in the main part of the screen there, those are the two shelves of, I'm not sure if we're going to keep these, shelf. Either have played them and have played them, didn't like, or haven't played them, we'll play them before we get rid of them, but I don't have super high expectations on them. And I really don't want to point out individuals yet until we talk about them on the show. You guys heard our opinion on No Caboose in a previous episode. And I think that's the only one on that shelf that we have talked about, on those two shelves that we've talked about on the show yet. Yeah, I think that is. So, oh, in Fresh Fish. That's the second edition of Fresh Fish. First time I played it, really liked it. Second time I played it, liked it. Third time we played it, it's kind of a case of diminishing returns. Wasn't quite as smitten with it. So, yeah. Panamax will come in the next few months, Cabralicus, I promise. And all right, I don't want to get too sidetracked on that, but since you asked, I will answer real briefly. Akarashi, I think is how you say that, asks, I didn't realize the government took away online poker. Would I elaborate on that? I met some high-rated Canadian poker players once, and they still play online for practice. Well, Canada is not the U.S., so it was 2011 or 2012. Again, my years get a little fuzzy. Black Friday, August 15th of 2011-2012. The Department of Justice shut down PokerStars, Full Tilt, and Ultimate Bet. I had my entire bankroll on Full Tilt. My buddy, one of my best friends, who's getting married this year, going up to see him, really excited. Sorry, it's the drugs getting me down on tangents. That's what we're going to go with. He messaged me the day of Black Friday, hey, did you hear what happened? You know, the government seized these 3 websites. I was like, what? No. I raced home because I had a 2-factor authenticator, so nobody could log into my account. Transferred all my money over to my buddy in Canada except for $1,000. And long story short, took 4 years to get that $1,000. Actually, I was one of the last American players to be kicked off the site because on Black Friday, I never logged out. And that's actually one of the security things. If you're logged in, no one else could log in anywhere else in the world. So I just never logged out. And I played all the weekend. Finally on Tuesday, Full Tilt forced a patch, kicked everybody off. When you try to log back in, sorry, you're in the U.S. You're not allowed to play on here anymore. So all my money, thankfully, was transferred over to my buddy. I was able to get that. So good to go. I know of people that had upwards of mid 6 figures, high 6 figures locked up on Full Tilt for 4 years. Had to submit a remittance form through the Department of Justice 3, 4, 4.5, whatever it was, years later to be able to get their money. Yeah, so it's legal in some states here in the country, but most of them not. Colorado is not one of them. So at that point, Amanda and I had a decision. We either move overseas. I had a lot of friends that moved to Canada, a lot of friends that moved to Thailand, and we enjoyed living in the States. So I became a punching a clock on the wall guy again, back into aviation. Did that until May of this year when I realized my job was killing me because I was so miserable, and now trying to make a run at doing this. So there you go. There's a long story. Long, probably. So sorry if I lost everybody on that. All right, so moving on. Tin Goose. I want to revisit that. There's none of these are going to be up for sale tomorrow type stuff. And so we want to revisit all these games a little bit or visit them for the first time and then make a decision. So go from there. Yeah, progress. I love the concept of it. I just don't know if it's going to be worth it, but we'll see. And no, Caelus is not there. That is Caelus the card game. Do not make that do not get those two confused. Different animals there. You'll see Caelus here in a little bit. Old school Mare Nostrum, along with the mythology expansion, we'll get to the other more the second edition Mare Nostrum here in a little bit as well. All right, so now let's go down to the bottom shelf. That's Feld. Those are not going anywhere. Those are the Felds that we really, really enjoy. So, all right. So, well, I say really, really enjoy. Let me step back from that. Castles of Burgundy will never leave. That's one of Amanda's all-time favorite games. And if you have listened to our top 6 school night games, Pod Blast that we just released this morning, you will hear that Castles of Burgundy is very high on both of our lists. Not going anywhere. We love it. So, Spiekerstadt, fantastic bidding game. Amazing. Bora Bora, I think, is Feld's heaviest game and one of my favorites of his. I'm not really keen on the art, that hyper-saturated, very vibrant color. Macau, we really enjoy. Trajan is another favorite. Strasbourg is another underrated Feld. It's out of print, so it's kind of hard to get, but we really enjoyed our plays of that. And Aquasphere. Haven't played it enough to really make a defined opinion. I know a lot of people are on that, but I enjoyed my first 2 plays of it. Not loved it, but I enjoyed it. And there's Yorick. We haven't played it yet, which is basically just Spiekerstadt with a different thing. So those are the Felds. And also that black bag that's over to the right of that actually is a unreleased, you can only buy it on Etsy game that I think the designer sent to us. It just showed up at the house one day, or at the P.O. box. Kind of a cool little abstract chess-like game that I've never heard of, and I can't think of the name right now, so I apologize on that. All right. Oh, hey, speaking of Hunter and Crone, Meeple Pete's in the chat. He actually was the one that provided this. Thought you would appreciate that. Wasn't super keen on Luna. I played it when it was out of print. We didn't own it. One of our friends had it, and I was like, I don't understand why people love this game as much. Same with In the Year of the Dragon. Wasn't really impressed. Just, they're fine, but no, not yet. Let's see. Phil says online poker player to online board game player. Stop living my dream. I just have never. I'm a Marine, for those that don't know. So I served just under 9 years. Got out 3 days before. Went on terminal leave 3 days before 9/11. Honorably discharged, the whole 9 yards. But I have learned throughout my life that the typical punching a clock on a wall, I don't fit in real well. I tend to be, I work well by myself. I work well with engaging people that like to use their brains. And I'm extremely proud of being a Marine. It is one of the, if not the thing I'm most proud of. But I didn't really necessarily fit in because you do what you're told and shut up, don't think. That didn't go over real well. Same with aviation, because aviation is filled with a lot of former military. Didn't fit in really well there. And I never went to college because I chose the Marine path instead. And so playing poker for a living, that is the most mentally exhausting thing I've ever done in my life. Board games scratch a similar itch for me, in that it's that competition and decision making. Now, I understand that when we're playing a game, we're not playing for money, obviously, but we have a social agreement that, you know what, when we're sitting across the table from one another, we are going to try our damnedest to just crush one another as best and as hard as we can. It's the exact same thing that happens in poker. I mean, it's a social game, right? I mean, I'm a extrovert. I mean, I talk at the table. I'm not one of those headphones in, hoodie on, sunglasses. Nah. I'm a social guy, obviously. And so I want us to have fun, but I'm still trying to absolutely eviscerate you in the game, whether that's poker or whether that's over Forbidden Stars. I keep looking at it because we're reviewing it tonight. So Board Games actually scratches a very similar itch to poker, because that competition and decision making, it's still social. It's amazing how similar those two things are. It really is to me. And so it makes sense that poker got taken away from me, and then I became a board gamer, and then the show grew, and here we are with the patron drive. So depending on how well that does will dictate what I do going forward. So I'm super excited about it. But yeah, it's surreal to me, my life, kind of, but it's my life. It's all I know. So I realize it's not typical, and I'm very grateful for it, but it is a little surreal. Caelus Magna Carta. That's it, Andy. Thank you. I haven't played it. We have Caelus. Love Caelus. Just over here because I'm not sure. Okay, cool. All right, so let's move on to the Euros now. Like, I realize Feld is, but you get the point. All right, so let's move on to the meat of the collection, I guess is a better way to put that. All right, so here we go. So now this is the left and center of the back wall. There are 3 built-in shelves here. So this is the meat of the Euro collection, this back wall. Okay, so that's kind of just a big view. So now we are, oh, wait, sorry. Told you, not doing well with this. There we go. Let's move the chat down just a hair, guys. There we go. All right. So Brant asks, oh, hold on, let me back up. I'm behind on chat again. Shocker. Oh my Lord, I am way behind. I am so sorry, guys. Okay, we'll start. Oh my. Okay, wow, I'm really behind. I apologize. So let me go through this. Stop chatting for a second. Let me catch up. Sean says, order my copy of The Climbers. Thanks for your playthrough. You're welcome in advance. It's an amazing game. Meeple Realty insert for Castles of Burgundy is awesome. Has a little dice towers. It's amazing. The Lum Doctor. Looking forward to Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, Edward? No. And I said this when I was on Botch Games cast. Stop with X, the card game, X, the dice game. I don't care. Have you ever, there may be one, maybe 2 exceptions that I can't think of off the top of my head, in which those are actually really good games. If it's not a good game, why are you making it? I know the answer to that question, but I have zero interest in the X, the card game, or X, the dice game. No, zero interest. I would much rather play Castles of Burgundy, even having not played the dice game or the card. No. I feel strongly about that. Have I tried Sidereal Confluence, and have you tried Advanced Civ? Yes, on Advanced Civ. We'll talk about that when we get down there. And Sidereal Confluence, that's funny. It's actually not going to be in the pictures because it's actually on my nightstand as I'm going through the rulebook. I have not played it yet. Killing me. Saturday, that's happening. There's a reason, Andy, that I have not sold the Spiekerstadt, even though we have Jorvik, because I want to play Jorvik and make that own determination on that as well. Hey, Dave. Lots of happy hours on the shelf. Yes. What is the game to the left of Progress? Oh, sorry to do this to you guys, but it's because I'm behind in chat. Hold on. Nope, wrong one. This one. The game to the left of Progress is Lagoon. Funny story real quick. The game to the right of it, Balmland. That sounded really cool to me at Essen last year. And then I made a really big mistake. Didn't realize it was German only. Oops. Haven't played it yet because I don't read German. I might bring it to Essen this year and have somebody teach me how to play it. Might not be a bad idea. What about Notre Dame? Oh. So Notre Dame would be ranked a 3 on our new scoring or our new scale of 1 to 6. So 1, burn it with fire. 2 is meh, it's whatever. A 3 is it's not the game, it's me. I loathe Notre Dame, whatever. Feld, can't stand it. And I think the reason is I blame the board game community for this. We played this relatively early on, we'll say in the first 2 years of being in a hobby, and we heard how amazing Notre Dame is. It's amazing. I can't wait for it to come back into print. I played it, and I was like, that's all there is? Really? Why the hype? I don't get it. So that really turned me off on it. Not the game itself. It's because I came in with such high expectations of the game because of everything I had read and heard about it. So it ruined Notre Dame for me. So it's not the game. That would be a 3. That's 100% on me. By the way, for those that are familiar with our 1 to 6 scale, we've recently swapped 2 and 3. So yeah, anyway. Oh, wow. All right. Okay, so Amanda liked In the Year of the Dragon more than I did. Yeah, it's relentless, that pressure. I enjoyed that, but whatever. Reynald just asked about a game overrated by BGG. There you go, Notre Dame. And also Glenmore. Glenmore would be another 3 for me. The game is well loved across the board by the entire hobby. Meh. I just didn't get it. I enjoy the rondel aspect, like in Shipyard, so it's not that, and in Kraftwagen, but yeah, just Glenmore, another game that's up there with Notre Dame. I don't know. It's a me issue. I'll admit that. This is where I wish I read as fast as Amanda. So sorry about that, guys. Hey, Jim. Jim from Punching Cardboard joining us. Says, is that my in-shrink copy of Crisis next to Ginkopolis? We'll talk about that, Jim. And for the record, for those that didn't know, we actually got one of the prototypes for Crisis. And when we talked about that on the show, back when it was on Kickstarter, actually, we talked about it then. We haven't played it, the actual finished version, because we have the prototype of it that was such a good prototype, we just never broke it out of shrink. Really enjoyed that game. That's another that we could stream, I think is a good thing, or review. So yeah, we'll talk about that. All right. I might be able to get you the prototype. Keep my version, Jim. Just saying. BGG Con this year, Brant. Next year, maybe either or maybe both. We'll see, to be determined. But for this year, BGG Con for me only. Amanda can't get the time off of work, and my boss, Red, our patrons, are allowing me to go to BGG Con. And holy cow, am I behind again. Okay. Pizza asks a pretty interesting question, not really collection related, but we're here. Let's talk. The trying your damnedest to win point. What's your opinion on screwing someone over when you're losing so that you're not last place, not the only loser? Here's my, in general, opinion on the messing over somebody else aspect of games. If I do so and it helps me in a in a tangible way, then I'll do it. Then I'm totally okay with it, and I'm okay if people do it to me. However, in king-making situations, I try to avoid that just because if I'm out of it, I would rather the players that are in the position to fight it over, that I don't want my decisions to tip the scales one way or the other when it's pretty obvious. So in that case, I'm not a fan of that. But if there's a definite help to the player that is screwing over the other player, then absolutely. That's called playing to win, or playing to advance your position, as long as you're not king making. All right, we haven't even talked about the shelves, so I'm going to really quickly skim these, and then if I missed it, then you guys can re-ask it. I'm caught up now in chat. Here we go. So let's talk about the shelves. So we have 8 shelves that we're looking at here. The top on both of these, and actually going across all the way to the right, which you'll see in the next one, is all of our kind of smaller filler type games. I mean, even though High Treason isn't a filler technically, it fit up there. Honestly, that's the reason it's up there. You see San Juan up there, Atten. Here, let me just make this bigger so I can read it a little bit better. Impulse, you see Innovation. That I think 6th from the right, that is in a non-English characters. I think it's Chinese. That's the Chinese version of Modern Art. Gorgeous artwork. There's steamrollers, North American Railways, stuff like that, Arboretum and all that. And still going over to the left-hand side, more filler, including the Chinese version of Battle Line and so on and so forth. So we'll just go down from there. So the second shelf down, obviously it's kind of a hybrid nowadays. It's Spielworks meets Capstone, kind of. So you see a lot of the Spielworks games there. Huge fan of Colonialism, obviously Arkwright, which is right here. That is the Capstone Games version with the Meeple Realty insert in it. And, well, you guys can see it. I don't need to go game by game. Gentis. And then the original Rushefort, which is my favorite. And over on the right side, you can see the Ruhr. Didn't have room for it. Over on the left side. So there's that. So moving down is kind of the Uwe shelf. Uwe Rosenberg. So obviously we have 4 of our favorites over there. Agricola, Orit Labora, Le Havre, In the Year of the Dragon. I'm sorry. Ooh. Gates of Loyang. My bad. And then there's Fields of Arla. I'm not ready to get rid of it, even though I realize we kind of panned it in our review, from our opinion. It's a good game. Just, plus with the expansion coming out, I want to wait and see. Then there is the game we wanted Uwe to start making, which is The Colonists. So that's kind of why it's down there next to Uwe. And then Russian Railroads and First Class, which is kind of, so here's an exception to that rule. First Class, some people call it Russian Railroads, the card game, but it's actually a meaty game. It's not just some little not throwaway, but little filler. You get the idea. And then one of our favorite from 2013, I think it is Craftsman from Krzysztof Matsucik and G3. Still a fantastic game. The one real big downside is I don't know if it's colorblind friendly. I think Chad has played that with us, and Chad is the one person in our group that is colorblind. So, not sure. Anyway, moving on. So, keep going down here. Actually, wait, no, we're going to stop at the top 3 because the next one has the lower part of this. So, moving over to the right side. So, you see the Climbers and Neue Heimat. Those are the 2 little red and yellow shoebox ones. Those will never leave my collection, even though I realize Capstone has reprinted the Climbers and Neue Heimat's coming next year. I'm just very partial to those 2, as you guys know from listening to the show. Then, the original Wildcatters. Big fan of that game. 2.0 is coming out at Essen. We're going to be doing a playthrough a sponsored playthrough actually of that, as well as a official rules teaching. So I guess I can say this publicly now, I think, and if Clay gets mad at me, so be it. So one of the coolest, I don't know what to call it. This is just cool for us, being me and Amanda and the show. So as you guys know, obviously Clay, who owns Capstone Games, is a good personal friend of ours. But he also, we want to see him succeed. He basically has gone back through our back catalog and reprinted games that we enjoy. And I think that's awesome because he's making these games more available that were out of print. But so he wants us to succeed because that obviously helps him and vice versa, right? Right. So when we do our teaching and playthrough video of Wildcatters, no money exchange hands for this. However, what he did do for us is, and this is a first for us that we're super excited about, that hopefully this goes over well. It's going to have a little flyer in it that has the whole, hey, you want to skip the rule book? Scan this QR code and it'll take you to the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel in our playthrough, or check that, our teaching video, which will be cut out from the playthrough video of Wildcatters 2.0. It's supposed to be here by the end of the week. Super excited about that. So there, you know, a bunch of folks be able to have that little flyer in the box. That's kind of cool to me. That's a first. I'm super excited about that. So, all right. Thanks for indulging me. All right, moving on. So that is kind of a carry on of the Capstone games from the left-hand side there, Capstone / Spielworks. So also this kind of little group right here is games that don't really fit in other places. And this is kind of where your eyes go when you walk into the game room. So I want to highlight this group of games. These are some of our favorites in there. So you have Neue Heimat, The Climbers, Wildcatters, Three Kingdoms Redux. This is the Capstone version games. You guys saw the other one over by the window, the original. Sentimental value there. The Container and Dominant Species. So all those kind of group of games are the ones that I just want to make sure, hey, we could always play these if the player count's right, you know, because it's right in front of your face when you walk in. So there's that. Then obviously the What's Your Game collection of games there, which we're big fans of most of those. Then going on the shelf below, this kind of carries over two others from that list of, hey, put them in front of people. Panthalos, which you guys know we're big fans of, but kind of burn out a little bit on. Bern Eisenstein Iron Games game from 2014 Essen that got completely overlooked by everybody not named Rado and Heavy Cardboard. Then there's Beer Empire. I haven't played it yet, but the guys from Board and Dice drew a caricature of me and Amanda in the cover. Long story behind that. I'll talk about. I talked about it on the podcast before. Really want to get that played before Essen so I can talk to the guys about that. So can't speak to that. The next one, Confusion. I think that, right? Yeah, Confusion is like a reverse Stratego. This was the very first Stronghold Games game that we ever got. And if you can see your opponent's pieces, they can see your pieces. You can't see your own, but you have this book with a dry erase marker that you try and move this piece, and it shows different positions in this book of the different options that a piece could move. You try and move it like 2 spots forward. Your opponent then tells you yes or no, and then you do it by a systematic deduction how your pieces move and what piece that is, because in the middle of the board there's a briefcase. It's just a little piece that you have to go and pick up and bring to your back to your own side or back to your opponent's side. I forget which it is. And it's just a really clever deduction game, kind of reverse Stratego that I really, really dig. And we don't play it as much as we should. That'd be another fun one to stream once we can figure out the cameras for Block Wargames. That would be another good one. And obviously, the rest of that is all Stronghold games. Terraforming Mars, Panamax, you guys have heard us talk about that. The Great Zimbabwe, Great Western Trail, We haven't done a review on it yet. We will. Porto Nigra, haven't played it yet. My Village, I thought they did a really good job of making it feel like Village, but making it into its own game. I think that was pretty well done. Haven't played Stronghold yet or Fog of War. Outpost is a fantastic mathy game. A lot of 18xx players tend to like this. Makes sense. No catch-up mechanic in it. And, of course, there's Kanban because you can kind of see the Gallerist, which goes into the Ego Griffin stuff over on the other side. So let me catch up on chat. Da-da-da-da. Will they have an Arkwright upgrade pack at Essen? I don't know, Julian. I'm sorry. Yes, we definitely like Panthelos. You can go back and listen to our review on the podcast of that. Yeah, Happy Mr. Dave says Confusion was a neat game. It definitely it's mostly forgotten today. A good candidate for a video. I think so. I think that'd be cool. I assume it's out of print. I mean, it's heavy cardboard. That's what we do, right? So maybe. Yeah. All right. So let's keep moving on. All right. So now we got the bottom part of the shelf. So those bottom 6 shelves, so 3 and 3, as it were. So now we've kind of transitioned. We've gone from publisher or designer into theme area. So on these, it's kind of Civ this is more political type games through here. Civ building, city building, loosely going all the way across up until through Zolkin, I would say. So End of the Triumvirate. I've heard it's an amazing 3-player game. Haven't gotten to it yet. Hey, Clay. I was just talking well of you. You should hear that. Hi. Hey, Kabuki. And all the new folks, welcome y'all. So we're talking about kind of political type games. Founding Fathers, which this is not the good, so I've been told, Founding Fathers version, which is only available through the Game Crafter. Really want to play that game. Desperately want to play that game. I don't know about buying a game through Game Crafter. Not opposed to it. I want to play it first. But I've heard really good things about the other Founding Fathers. So 1960, that's the original. I've heard actually there's in Slack today or last night, I read some that GMT did some really nice revisions on how some of the things work. So I'm going to try and pick up a copy of the newer version. And then you see 2 copies of Democker. This isn't to rub it into people. This is, we had the 3rd edition, and then German Mike sold me a copy of the 2nd edition. When we live stream this, we're going to play it how we play it, which is kind of a mix between the 2nd and 3rd edition rules. We'll put a big caveat about that. I don't know if I'm really willing to get rid of the 3rd edition or not, but if I do, I'll let y'all know. Swedish Parliament, haven't played it yet. Really obscure game that it piqued my interest when I heard about it at 2014 Essen? 15. Want to play it, haven't gotten to it yet. Urbanization is a Queen Games that kind of a little city, not really city builder, but kind of development building. Really enjoyed that a lot more than we expected to. New Amsterdam, 5-player only game, but oh my God. I would put that one step below Neue Heimat for brutal auction game at 5 players. New Amsterdam is phenomenal at 5 players. Metropolis, which fantastic bidding game, which kind of a development kind of game. And the Capitals. So interesting story on the Capitals. This game, I really like this game. I don't like it at 5 players. Way too long. 3 and 4 players, I really enjoy this game. City builder. And it's a heavy city builder. However, I think one of the reasons the game didn't do well market-wise, like it just didn't sell really well, was I think there's a disconnect between the U.S. Attitude of how things should be and how the international world thinks how things should be. Let me unpack that a little bit. So in the capitals, you are in negative points through halfway to 3/4 of the way through the game. Like you're just digging a hole. You start at 0 and you might be 25, -25, -30. But by the end of the game, you're in the positives. And I think this is just me making a broad, just a wild ass guess, that people don't like the feeling of, wow, I just keep losing points, and don't like that beat down that this game gives you. Whereas they could have done the exact same thing and done it to where you start with so many points, you get down to maybe 0, whatever, and then you go back to positive, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. Our group doesn't have a problem with it. However, I think there is a psychological thing that it seems a lot of Americans don't seem to like. And whereas the designer, I know he's in South America. I'm not sure which country, and I don't want to make an idiot out of myself and guess. But that was a conscious decision on their point. And he's like, I asked him about this and Tiago, and he was like, it doesn't matter. It's the same relative thing. I said, I know this, but I wonder if that's part of it. So anyway, so there's that. So Andy says, criminal lack of leaving Earth on that space shelf. We'll get there here in a minute, and I'm going to be, this is the one game where I'm a little petty about, and I'll freely admit this. And I'll explain why it's not on that shelf. Okay. So keep moving over. Now we're getting into the Civ Games. Okay. Super excited about this area. Patch history. We've had this game for 3 years. Haven't played it. Shame on us. I really want to try this. Obviously, if it's on these shelves, I want to play it. 7 Ages. I love it. If you guys get a second, when the video's done, make a little note and go look on BGG, 7 Ages. Look at the time, the play time on this. Funniest thing you'll ever read. I don't want to ruin the surprise, so just there. Because it can end very quickly or it could go very long. And if it ends very quickly, you just restart, and that's that. Asher, come here. Come on. He's over here whining. So then, Mare Nostrum. This is a game that could have made our top 6 school night game list. For a Civ game, it does a really, really good job of playing in an hour and a half to 2 hours. Asher, come. Come here. Come. Asher appearance. Come. Hey, buddy. He was thinking he couldn't get over here. So, all right. Really enjoyed Mare Nostrum. So here's an interesting thing. I would like to compare and contrast Mare Nostrum and Imperios Millenarios at some point, either in a video or in the podcast. I think that would make for a really interesting discussion because they kind of potentially can play in about the same window and do things completely differently and how they introduce different aspects of a Civ game. I think that would be pretty cool. Then there is Sid Meier's Civ, and what you can't see is behind those games are all the expansions for Sid Meier's Civ, and that's another game. Takes about 4 or 5 hours to play that Amanda and I both really loved. We really enjoyed the newer version of Sid Meier's Civ, and now they're coming out with an even newer version of this that I'm excited to get my hands on and check out, but I don't know if it was calling out for it because I think that this one was a really good version. Then there's Endeavour, which haven't played yet, and I know there's a new version coming out next year that it has the thing that really grabs me about the idea, and hear me out before people send hate mail. It has slavery in the game, and I appreciate that the game is willing to tackle that topic. And I also love the concept that if you still employ slavery at some point in the game, late game, maybe it's the end game, again, haven't played it, you get penalized for that, to where you're likely not going to win the game because you should have realized how horrible slavery is and gotten and abolished it. I think that is fantastic. I love games that are willing to take on aspects of, whether it's social issues or they're not not so much social issues. Historical black marks in the world, games that aren't afraid to take these things on, and publishers and designers and just games in general that are willing to take these on. I applaud that. Kind of like what Spielworks did with colonialism. Awesome. Then there's Civilization. This is from Print and Play Productions. This is far before Mega Civ was ever going to come out. I'd heard rumors of it years ago, whatever. So I think this is the most expensive game that we own. $272 we paid. This has the original Civ, Advanced Civ, the expansion maps, the whole 9 yards in this, and it's from Print and Play Productions. It's all wood and cards. It's gorgeous. But the question is, do I need it with Mega Civ? But I haven't been willing to get rid of it yet, so I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Through the Ages, both mine and Amanda's #1 all-time game. Dead center where it belongs. And this is kind of going into CGE games as well. Zolkin, Shipyard, if you listen to our top 6 school night games, and Dungeon Pets, a surprisingly heavy game for such a cute, innocuous theme. All right, give me 30 seconds. Sorry, guys. I got to let Asher out. All right, that wasn't too bad. All right, so Splatter is not in the studio. It's actually out in the main gaming area, so that'll be in another video, guys. All right. All right, then going down to the bottom, or the middle shelf, kind of the second from the bottom. There's Clinic, the only game that Amanda tapped out on. Said it broke her brain. I am horrible at spatial stuff. And the 3D aspect in Clinic is so hard, but I really want to go back and revisit that, both as a playthrough and a review at some point. Yeah, really want to. Thoughts on Small City? Somebody asked. Where is it? I lost my spot. There we go. JJ asks, thoughts on Small City? I'm on the fence about keeping my copy. My suggestion, I'll give you the real brief answer. We like it. Go listen to our review on the podcast. We break it down pretty thoroughly and talk about it. Yeah, we're fans, though. Tramways obviously was a Golden Elephant Award finalist and the People's Choice winner for last year. Obviously pretty high on that. Tammany Hall, really good. So this is more city building kind of ish. And then we get into space after that. So Tammany Hall, good area control. Geekopolis, still haven't played it. Desperately want to. I've heard nothing but good things. I've also heard that the expansion is completely unnecessary. Cardboard Congregation. Why don't you have Nations on your Civ shelf? Because it's a terrible imposter. Not a fan of Nations. It's a cheap knockoff. Just a no. Through the Ages. Does it perfectly. Not a fan of Nations. I might have been had I not played the amazingness that is Through the Ages first. So there's that. But no. You will not see nations in this video. Or on the live stream, I mean. Andy says the slavery bit in Endeavour is nice, but it's very abstracted in the game, as is the game. Well, I mean, by default, every game is, right? But still, I appreciate that it's willing to take that on. What did you think of Fife? I will let you know when we played it. We have not gotten to it yet, but we're getting ahead of things. Bottom left. Do this in order, people. Come on, work with me. And now we get into the space stuff. As Jim mentioned earlier, there's Crisis down there. Martians, A Story of Civilization. So I've heard it's actually a really good game, but the rule book is an impediment to playing. We broke it out, had it out on the table for like 2 weeks, and just never got around to it. Life happened, so we had to box it back up and didn't get a chance to do anything with it. I want to remedy that eventually. High Frontier. So we have the second edition up above it and the big third edition, and oh, I'm glad I got the third edition. Love that version of the game. Played it a couple times, taught it a couple times. I think probably 2 more plays of it, and I would be willing to live stream it. Now, only with a little bit of the colonization rules in with it, and we'll probably only do it 3-player, but that will happen. We were originally going to do it on the anniversary of the moon landing, but life happens. So, then Kepler 3042, one of the sneaky surprises of Essen last year. So it was on my I want to investigate further list at Essen. I walked up to the booth, and this was what I looked at when I walked up to the booth. 4 players doing this. Oh, that's a good sign. I like that. So I watched a round of it and picked up a copy and very pleasantly surprised by it. Really enjoyed that. It's not ZOMG, the greatest game of all time, but we really enjoyed it. In fact, we live streamed it when we were down in the basement. We haven't done it since because of the fact that we're going to be getting the Renegade Games version of it. We're going to hopefully live stream that. We're definitely going to review it and be able to compare and contrast the 2 versions of the game. So looking forward to that post-Essen. Exoplanets, haven't gotten to it yet, and Fleets, haven't gotten to it. So let me go back and address Andy's brought up Leaving Earth. So this is the one game in my or not in my collection, and I feel a bit petty about it. I'm man enough to admit it, but I feel like your word is your honor. Again, I'm a Marine, and these things matter to me. So we were told we were going to have a copy sent to us twice. Never showed up. Sent 4 or 5 emails. Never got a response since. Over the course of a year, I sent like 4, 5, 6 emails. Never heard back. Nope. All right. Nope. That kind of turned me off. Life happens. That's why if I only sent 1 or 2, sure. 4, 5, 6? Nah. So yeah, that kind of made me a little bitter. Not gonna lie. So call me petty on that one thing. Sleep well, Rob. I realize I'm like an hour. You've already been asleep for an hour. I'm sorry, but take care. So Joe Wiggins is talking up Pipeline that's supposedly coming from Capstone next year that I've played a prototype, but it's been completely revised since I last played it. But man, were we quite smitten. That's going to be one heavy, heavy game. At least it was back then. Super excited about that. And I suppose Tammany Hall does belong on the shelf above it, but space. Bear with me. Like I said, it's not a perfect organization, but it is what it is. Interesting. Happy Mr. Dave says, I didn't like Ginkopolis my first few plays. It grew on me a lot. It's now in my top 30. That's kind of interesting to hear. That's cool. Ah, Joe has seen the light. Joe used to be like, oh, Nations is way better than 3D. No, he's reversed. Yeah, welcome. Good. Glad to hear it. Nations is a much better. You're dead to me, Rob. You're dead to me. I'm sorry. And Kabuki Kid has only played Nations, the dice game. Oh, you poor people. And I've heard good things about Leaving Earth, too. I've heard it's multiplayer solitaire, and it's really good as a solo game, but still, it's such a bummer. Anyway, whatever. Moving on. So, people are asking for a reprint of Democker. Me too. I'm willing to put out a bet that I'll say in the next 3... Yeah, I'll say next 3 years. That happens. Anybody want to take me on that? All right, moving over from the space. So actually, wait, we still got so the next, the very bottom shelf there is kind of our, kind of fun. That's silly. They're not all, they're dexterity type and just lighter games. There you go. Takanako, Downfall of Pompeii, Time's Up, Title Recall, which is still to this day one of our all-time favorite end of the night. You know, you get loopy and just can't stop laughing games. Then you have Bandu or Bausac, which is an awesome auction / dexterity / stacking game, which is really, really cool. Riff Raff, another dexterity. And then one of our oldest games in our collection, Red Dragon Inn, which is just a silly little party game that we really enjoy. So now going across there, Walled City, I picked it up because people in Slack said this is a just criminally underrated game. So found it cheap. So picked that up. And then this is kind of like a time period, shelf to where it's all ancients or older time period games that didn't really fit anywhere else. So Tigris and Euphrates, Praetor, Yunnan, which is another that we want to live stream. Fife, still haven't played it, as I mentioned earlier, would like to. DVE, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. That's that kind of aqua, kind of seafoam color box. For the longest time, it was on sale for like $5, maybe $7 everywhere. So I picked up a copy. Heard it's actually a lot better than you might think. It's about language, and that's kind of cool, especially since we have a couple of linguists in our game group. That seems pretty good. Palaces of Carrera, Florenza, another game that is really underrated, that desperately needs the player aid that's on BGG, or else the game is unplayable. But a game that I really enjoyed. Tony enjoyed less so, but played well, 2-3 players. Masters of Venice. So if you listen to our review of this, and for the longest time, this was our most downloaded podcast review. That seemed just obscure and random to me, but for like a year it was afterwards. It was crazy. But Masters of Venice, one of the most fiddly, most like labor intensive. It has pegboards. You have to constantly be moving as markets go, but still one of my top 20 all-time favorite games. When I played it the first time, loved the game, but it was at the end of the original HeavyCon. We played it 5 players and it took forever. I was exhausted after the weekend, and I enjoyed the game, but I just really wasn't super excited to play it again because I was so tired when we played it. So when we said we were going to review it, I was like, all right. So me and Tony sat down. We played it with some other friends. I was like, I really don't want to, but needs of the show, I have to. So, and then after that, I was like, why? This is phenomenal. I love this game. Why was I so reticent to get it back to the table? So I felt like an idiot. But yeah, there's that. Then, to the right of that is Ostia, a earlier game from Arkwright designer Stefan Riesthaus, which is temporarily, and by temporarily I mean like for the last 2 years, on loan to us from Paul Chad. Still haven't gotten around to it. We want to, though. And then just to the right of that is a print and play. I think it's from the Game Crafter or maybe Print and Play Productions. I forget. Eberron, Scott, the designer, has been constantly revising this game. He says it's a mix of Antiquity meets Roads and Boats. Sold. All right. So he sent us this, and we're actually waiting on some new tiles to show up. Again, he keeps revising it. So we're going to finally get this to the table post Essen. So really looking forward to that. Then down underneath that is Amanda's big Dominion collection. I say big. It pales compared to like Sweater Mike's collection, but there's a bunch of expansions. Down in that little Husky toolbox little thing, the blue and black thing, and the Dominion box up above it, and then Duel of Ages 2, which is entirely Tom Vassel's fault. Our first Gen Con, we were able to get it on sale on Sunday from Cool Stuff, and that was pretty cool. Busted it out. It's kind of like HeroScape meets ASL. Really, I'm not kidding. It's kind of ASL for fantasy players. And I love HeroScape. I think I love the concept or the idea of HeroScape more than the actual game HeroScape, which we have a massive collection that we're trying to offload. If anybody's interested, email us. But yeah, we played it. I really dig Duel of Ages 2. So thank you, Tom, for convincing me to purchase that and convince us to purchase it. Just one that doesn't hit the table a lot, and that's one I would have to completely relearn. It's been so long since we played it. But yeah, it's funny. I say I'm not interested in ASL, binders of rules, Duel of Ages, small rule book. Probably has something to do with it. All right, so moving on to the penultimate shelf. There you go. So this is the third of those three that are over there, just to show you guys kind of the big picture of it. So we'll go ahead and get that. All right, so let me move chat a little bit. Actually, here, we'll talk about the left side, so we'll just keep that going there. So the left side, we have more. Wait, we've already covered the middle, haven't we? Let's move that back. Make that a little bigger, actually. There you go. So the right side, so continues. More filler up top. You have Doc Miss, you have Capital, Urek 2, Caverna, Cave versus Cave, which we just live streamed, and some others. So yeah, good stuff up there. Kind of what filler do we want? Basically, look at the top shelf. And now we go into the other part of the meat of the collection here. And this is our Matt Gertz area outside of Race for the Galaxy. That would kind of go up in the filler area up top, but there's no room. I suppose I could have moved Hive over, but whatever. So we Hansa. So this is kind of PD Verlag inside Matt Gertz area. So Hansa Teutonica, Imperial 2030, Navigador, one of my all-time favorite games still. Concordia. There are a bunch of extra maps in there. Goa, all good games, all great older games. So yeah, really, really enjoy it. Terra Mystica and the expansion, which is behind it. You guys heard our review, and if you haven't, you can go listen to it and tell us we're wrong. I'm still looking forward to the Gaia project coming out at Essen. Brussels 1893, another that we want to review and live stream. Another really, really enjoyable game, and really dig the artwork in that. And Navigador playthrough is going to happen, Julian, at some point, as is Goa, for that matter. St. Petersburg, a classic. Go back, listen to our review of that. We're going to be live streaming that this week as well. I mean, a lot of classics hitting the table this week. We thought that would be kind of fun. Which of the two Imperials is better? Kinda, honestly, which theme do you like better? Do you like the old, the more, trading in the Mediterranean time frame, or the more, I don't want to say modern because it's futuristic, but there's that, right? All right, so here is the real Caelus, the original Caelus game. Isn't going anywhere. Really highly thought of game for a reason, right? Puerto Rico, go listen to our top 6 that released this morning for school night games. Every single time Puerto Rico hits the table, why don't we play this more? But then again, we don't have those type of players to where no, you chose the wrong role. Do something else. Can't believe people do that, but you get the idea. So there's that. And my favorite, if you're going to introduce some non-gamers and you want to go lighter, I think Airlines Europe is a fantastic entry point into the hobby if you want to go for a lighter game. I think it's better than Ticket to Ride. I think it shows partial or shared incentives, i.e. stock investing, that a lot of the games that we enjoy have. I think Airlines Europe is phenomenal for this. Really big fan of that. All right, so now we get into the majority of the VTOL stuff. So you have Kanban just to the left, which is technically Stronghold, but then the Gallerist, the New Vinos, and Lisboa. And then more Eagle Griffin stuff going into Rococo, which we're really big fans of. I love offbeat themes. I love the idea that you're not only a dressmaker, but you're a garment maker. You're making men's coats as well. I don't understand why people have a problem with this, but whatever. Cavum, again, top 6 school night game. Cavum is fantastic. People that don't like the explosions must like... The people that don't like Cavum, I'm going to make a broad generalization that I think is probably more right than it's wrong. That the people that complain about the explosions and people messing up what it is that they just created are the same type of people that prefer Uwe Rosenberg's newer games, to where it's a lot more multiplayer solitaire and don't want people being able to mess up what it is that they've done. And you can plan for it. You can mitigate it to a point. And Cavum is just fantastic. Highly underrated game, in my opinion. CO2, waiting for the new version. Yes, that's exactly it. I will try it. I wasn't super keen on it when we first played it, but it's been 3-4 years. And with it being semi-co-op, that's kind of the aspect that our entire group wasn't super keen on, but we've come a long way. We have grown as gamers, so definitely want to revisit the new version for CO2 to see how that goes. And then we have the Jamie Stegmaier, Stonemaier Games area. Scythe, we panned it, kind of. We gave it props in a lot of ways, but overall, this is the game that we got ridiculed the hardest about, calling a game too polished and too smooth of gameplay. And the reason, I don't know the reason why people did not like that aspect or our comments on that, but the reason we said that, or I said that, is rough edges in a game gives a game character, and I don't want every single rough edge removed in a game. And I appreciate the just high level of both production quality as well as development that went into Scythe, but I feel like it's overdone to where it just lost a lot of its character, I felt like. My favorite aspect of the game is whenever you acquire resources, they have to stay on the board. You don't get to make a cool little pile that nobody can mess with. You better protect them out there. I think that is an amazing idea, and more games should introduce that. But overall, I'm still not willing to get rid of it with expansions coming to see if maybe it changes things up. I don't know. But going to the right of that is my favorite Stonemaier game, and I think I speak for Amanda too when I say that, is Viticulture, especially with the Tuscany expansion. A few of those make it a really enjoyable worker placement game. That would be a great school night game that I may have just overlooked when we made our list, so that's on me. Sorry about that. Euphoria. The only reason we're keeping that game is Amanda's in the game, and we actually, this is early on when we were in the hobby, and we paid to get the artwork for Amanda in the game. So if you own Euphoria, you can go look for that. So kind of, that's a sentimental keeper. And then Reef Encounter, Z-Man, which is just above that. I didn't have room. And also, there's another subtle reason why Reef Encounter is where it is. Reef Encounter kind of sticks out, like it's horizontal on that shelf where everything else is vertical, to where it catches your eye because it's out of order. So if it catches your eye, maybe people would be more inclined to play it. Be like, oh, hey, what about Reef Encounter? Hasn't worked yet, but that's my reason for it. So there's that. All right, so let's keep moving down. Wow, this is going on a long time. It's 2 hours. Sheesh. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, there's still 100 of y'all watching, so I guess you guys are enjoying it. So yay. I'm glad that people aren't like, oof. All right. So the bottom part of that shelf now. Actually, we can make that a little bigger. Hold on. Let's do that, shall we? There we go. We've already talked about the left side, so you guys don't need to see that. Now we've reached the Tasty Minstrel section. Homesteaders, 2nd edition. I've heard nothing but good things about this. I want to play it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. Il Vecchio, haven't gotten to it, but also heard good things. Steamworks. So this game plays longer than I want it to play, but it has one really clever, really cool mechanism in it, in that it's worker placement, but you build your own worker placement actions. So how you build your gizmos dictates what the worker placement action does. That's a really cool idea. I love that. The whole game as a whole, but I love that idea. So I'm hoping that gets introduced in other areas, different games. Village. We really enjoy it. Village Port, I think, is a great expansion to that game. Village Inn is fine, but I think Port is, I'm not going to say it's mandatory, but it definitely adds to the game. We enjoy that. Ground Floor, the new editions coming from Spielworks next year. Looking forward to that. I'm curious to see what they've changed. I know they have dropped it down to... They've cut off 6 players. I think it's now just 2 to 5 players. Maybe it's 3 to 5, 3 to 4, 2 to 4, something like that. But I know we enjoyed it at 5 players on down. We really enjoyed this game. We reviewed it. In fact, I don't see it at a glance what episode, but yeah, we really enjoyed that game. Still do. Orléans, pretty cool little bag builder concept. It's one that we enjoy fine enough. Same with Yokohama. Guilds of London. We haven't played this yet. I'm sorry, Tony, if you're watching. Snowdonia, we thoroughly enjoy and want to review, maybe do a live stream of after Essen. And Confucius. You looks still in shrink. Ours is, but we've played our buddy's copy. That is a really cool game. We played that over Labor Day weekend with at Tatanka-Con with the TBG guys and Dave, and really enjoyed that game. If you can find a copy of Confucius and you have people that are not easily aggravated, I think that's one worth checking into. Then there's Quebec that, again, don't have room for it. Horrible color choices in that game. Oh, it's garish. It's not pretty. But I really love the cascading effect of the scoring, to where you score here and then whoever has the most cubes there, they cascade into the next area for scoring to help them score there. I really, really enjoyed Quebec. When we reviewed it, Tony, not so much. Did not enjoy Quebec. I really did a lot. So there's that. Sean says, just pulled out my copy of Euphoria. Is Amanda the Icarate? Your Amanda? Not my Amanda, but the Amanda. Yes, that is her. Amanda the Broker. That is her. Yep. I've only played it once, Confucius. I don't want to misspeak, so you're better off just looking that up. But I remember thoroughly enjoying the game. All right. Oh, you know what? Got to go shut the door now that Asher's back in. Hold on one second so the cat doesn't get out. We are safe. Leo did not escape. All right, so moving on. So going down to the bottom shelf there's Magnum Sol, which I played, and I was like, it's a cool concept with the mining of salt. Played it a long time ago. I heard Magnum Sol Maria, the expansion, really improves the game. So I didn't own Magnum Sol. Saw Maria for cheap as the expansion, and it was out of print a while back, and I was like, could always try it again, right? Yeah, why not? So I picked up the expansion, which means I had to get the base game. All right, so there's that. All right, now we go into Phil Eklund. Now I realize High Frontier, Eklund, but space. Again, it's not a hard, fast rule, okay? Oh, wait. Just finished watching Great British Bake. Hi, Tony. Let's see. That's funny. You guys take that serious? Really? Or are we trolling here for the Great British Bake? I mean, I've seen it. Seems nice enough, but really? Oh, hey, that's cool. Welcome our 4 new patrons. Welcome, guys. So I have to update that. Awesome. That's cool. All right, so let's talk about Phil Eklund a little bit. BIOS Megafauna. Or, I'm sorry, Megafauna. The new one's coming out. I'm getting a copy. I'm excited about that. Haven't played it yet. Heard good things. We'll see. And if you listen to our SM Preview show where I am a little scared of the game, I'm hoping that it's not more I hope it's more game than it is simulation, because BIOS Genesis, and Amanda's in chat, she can speak to BIOS Genesis. She's played it. I haven't. To where that is a game that I refuse to try and learn from the rule book. That is one that I will be taught only. Yeah. And then there's the Pax Games. Huge fan of the Pax Games. You guys know this if you're a fan of the show, especially PAX Renaissance and PAX Porfiriana. I haven't played PAX Premier enough to put it in that higher, equal footing with PAX Ren and PAX Porfiriana, but I am a huge fan of that series. I love those games. And then there's Greenland and Neanderthal, Dice Chuckers. All right, moving on. Yeah, basically, I really enjoy the PAX series. I love High Frontier, but the rest of the games I want to enjoy. I just don't know if I will with the regarding Phil Eklund. Julian asks, what do you think of the new PAX theme announced? I don't know. I will let you know after Essen, after I take a look at it, if I can get to his booth. I kid you not, last year, every time I went by his booth, it was like 3 people deep. I mean, his booth is about this big. It's probably double my arm width, but, not very deep. And it was swamped the entire thing. That's amazing. That was awesome. When I did my interview with him, we had to actually leave his booth and go out into the middle of the walkway to get away from the crowd. It was crazy. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to take a look at it and I'll be able to answer that later. Take care, Pete. Thanks for stopping by. And now we go into the Richard Breeze area. So, inhabit the earth. Can't speak to enough. Mess with it a little bit, but can't speak to it enough yet. And then the Key series. I'm a huge sucker to the Key series. There's a reason I was helping push the whole, hey, if we get 500 likes on the picture of Key Market, it will get reprinted. I asked Richard Breeze off camera or off microphone last year when I talked to him about Key Market, and he explained why he doesn't like reprinting his older games. I really enjoyed my my 2 plays of Key Market. I didn't like them $200, $300 worth liked. And so I am super excited that that's going to hit Kickstarter early in 2018. I will definitely be backing that. I know they're going to revise some of the guilds to make it a little bit more balanced and stuff, is what it sounds like from what Richard has said. So excited about that. Key Harvest, Cathedral, and obviously Keyflower. Yes, please. Can't get enough of them. More games that when they hit the table, why don't these hit the table more? There's only so many hours in a day, right? Key to the City, London. We did a live stream of it when we were, we did it when we were still downstairs. It definitely is lighter than Keyflower, but it has a Keyflower feel, but I still feel like it has a place in a collection if you don't want to introduce somebody, boom, here's Keyflower, because that can be a really big game. Key to the City, London, I think, does a really good job of making that being a good stepping stone into Keyflower. And Keeper, which is coming out at Essen, really looking forward to that, especially after Jim dug into the rule book and said that he was worried that it was just going to be another kind of Key to the City level game. Not that, again, I mean, you see it here. There's a reason we still own it. And that's why it didn't make my top 10 list. But he said he dug into the rule book and there seems to be some really meaty stuff on that. So really, that has gone up on my list higher ever since I heard Jim talking about that. So there's that. John Company, looking forward to that. All currently on sale at Game Surplus and available. So check that out. If you're a patron, you get 10% off. I think he put John Company on there. If not, maybe you will now. Sorry, Carmen. Let's see what else. Thoughts on the Keyflower expansions. I'll be honest, we haven't played them. We have them both. You can see them, just haven't. I've heard that one adds breadth and the other adds depth, but we need to play Keyflower more on a fairly regular basis to be able to explore the game first and then add in the expansions. And that's why we haven't reviewed Keyflower, because I want to be able to talk about both of the expansions. So it truly might be another year or so. Hopefully not, but it could be a while until we actually review Keyflower, because we want to be able to play the base game enough to be able to introduce those and be able to talk intelligently and not sound ignorant as far as the expansions go. So there's that. All right. Will we be live streaming John Company? Possibly. We will definitely review it at some point, but possibly. All right. Take care, Gio. Thanks for joining us. You know what you guys can do for me? You can holler at Phil Eklund, send him an email and tell him you want us to live stream it. Then see if we can work something out. All right, then we go into the bottom shelf here. This is some of our Ameritrash stuff. Well, we have the insect area, which is March of the Ants and Mermies or Merms. So it's the ant area there. We weren't super keen on March of the Ants, but I did back the expansion in the hopes that it improved the base game a little bit. It was just a little too for us. Merms or Mermies, we definitely enjoyed. More games potentially for live streaming. And then the Ameritrash. Heard nothing but good things about Claustrophobia, Earth Reborn, and Horus Heresy. So I picked them up back in the day. We just haven't gotten to them yet. Blood Bowl 3rd edition is a sentimental thing for me that should actually be over in the I'm going to get rid of that pile. Because back when I was in the Marine Corps, I saw guys playing Blood Bowl 3rd edition and seeing these really elaborate pitches that they would create. And I love the idea of the game, but I just was never able to get involved in it because we deployed so much. And so when I saw this for relatively cheap, I picked it up. It's unpunched. It's still, the dudes are still on the models. The minis aren't created. They're still on the sprues. There you go. That's it. But just, I'm never going to get to it, so I don't need to keep it. So there's that. Cool. All right. Thoughts on Lisboa? I'll be honest. We did 3 playthroughs of it, and we've done a review on it. Go check that out. This just in. We like it. So, all right, cool. So now let's go into the closet. So the closet is here. You notice there's empty space here. There are empty shelves. And there's actually 2 more shelves down below that are empty, that we have room. So somebody earlier had asked, do you have a cap on your collection? We're nowhere near it. So there's that. All right, so you see the box for Saturn from Theta. Theta is actually out in the main gaming area. We just keep it out because it looks cool. Then we have our Fragger Games collection that Amanda loves, the huge overproduction that Fragger Games does. I would be totally down with getting rid of those if we run out of space. I don't know that Amanda would. Do Marines play Magic? Yes. Well, this one did. Quite a lot, actually. So, moving on. So now over on the top right there, across from Fragger Games, we have Archipelago, which is actually on loan to us from Randall. Joe Wiggins from the Deep End podcast is hounding us to play this game. I have been very reticent to play it because I've heard so many concerns about the end game and the hidden goals and all of that. However, Randall heard that and said, well, since you'll never pick up the game, do you want to borrow mine and give it a try? So we need to do that. We just haven't yet. So, okay, apparently Amanda says no on the Fragger Games. So we have to play them then. All right, so next to the on loan game is our very quaint. You saw the intro video from Tom Russel, the designer and head partner. He and his wife, Mary, run Hollandspiele. So we have our 3 games that we have from Hollandspiele. And if you notice, just to the right of the Hollandspiele games, there's a little bit of a gap right there next to mini rails. Why is that gap, you might ask? 4X is at our P.O. box right now. My #1 most anticipated game from the Essen time period. So I already made room before I took the pictures. That's where it's going to live. Super excited for that game. All right, so Infamous Traffic. We love the game. We've live streamed it. We reviewed it. Go watch or listen to that. Then we have Supply Lines of the American Revolution and I'm going to butcher this. Opulares and Opulares and Populares, I think. 2-player political Roman game. That scratches a whole lot of itches for me. So yes, we're going to be reviewing both those games in the upcoming. I'll say that we'll review for sure one of them this calendar year. The second one maybe this calendar year. It might stretch into 2018 because we try not to review games by the same publisher too close together. That's why we haven't done some of the Splotters. We haven't done Great Western Trail after we did Terraforming Mars and stuff like that. So, yeah. There's a lot of people saying they love Archipelago, so okay. So I told you we would give it a try for sure. All right. Yeah, I'm super stoked for 4X. All right, so moving on. Then we have the 2 brand new games from MOA Ideas. Both were sent to, well, actually one was given to me as a review copy at Gen Con, Mini Rails. We kind of did a review on that, but we definitely did a playthrough, and our entire group is in love with that game. That is phenomenal. For what it does, Mark Garrett's did just a bang-up job with that game, trimming it down, and 2 choices each round. That's it. Not hard, but agonizing. And then Tulip Bubble, which we're going to be doing a sponsored playthrough of Saturday, I think. And then we're going to be doing a review on it. We've played it once so far, and everybody that played it was like, holy cow, this market speculation and the investing in the tulips is really clever and really well done. The end game, there's some question on some stuff, but overall, very pleasantly surprised with Tulip Bubble. So if you're curious about that, join us for our live stream of that. Then we have Millennium Blades, one of our Golden Elephant Award finalists from last year. That, boy, there's so many reasons I shouldn't like that game, and I absolutely love that game. Yeah, big fan. So we'll review it and live stream it, hopefully after Essen as well. All right, so now we're going to talk about the 2 shelves on the left side in the middle. Those are our kind of off the beaten path, oddball, obscure games. Everything from Duyun, I think is how you pronounce that, Al Rashid, Mushroom Eaters, Hangtown, which is another one I desperately want to get to the table. Incorporated stuff that is not widely out there that I want to dig into and maybe review or live stream to be able to bring it to more people's attention. And kind of like what happens with Capstone Games, maybe somebody picks up these games if they're good games. Some of these we can't speak to yet, but yeah, so there's that. And the shelf below it, now obviously Forged in Steel, that got a lot of run from us specifically last year, and it was a big seller at Essen. I had people stopping me left and right. One of my favorite stories at Essen, I was kneeling down getting something out of my backpack kind of off one of the walkways. And so you couldn't really, I was wearing a heavy cardboard t-shirt, but you couldn't really see the t-shirt. And this little, I think, Italian man in his middle age, whatever, walks up to me, looks at me and says, "This is your fault." And I looked at him like, what did I do? I didn't say it. I just looked at him like, uh-oh. He takes his backpack off. He opens it. And he pulls out a copy of Forged in Steel. Dude. That's awesome, right? I mean, yeah. Anyway. Plus, it's from a semi-local publisher and designer. Wade used to be a city planner for the city of Pueblo, which is the building of Pueblo, Forged in Steel. And the publisher, oh my God, and now I'm drawing a total blank and feel like Nightworks Games is down in Colorado Springs, just an hour and a half south of us. So I love seeing that here it is, something local to where we are being picked up by what I assume was an Italian man in Germany. That's amazing to me, dude. That is so, so cool. Yeah. So anyway, Namibia, I've heard good things about and was able to locate a cheap copy a couple years ago. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Polish game, the red one next to it, tomorrow. I'm not going to try and pronounce the next one to it. Kerala, which complements a game surplus, is elephants. So yeah, obviously we're fans. There's Roundhouse, and I can't read the next one, the space game. I apologize, Jim. Can't think of it. Sorry. All right. You got Forge and Steel as far away as Argentina. That's seriously. I mean, how awesome is that, right? So moving over to the right side, those two shelves there, kind of Ameritrashy, not always, and just kind of that second shelf down is kind of a catch-all. It's got Argent, which we're big fans of. Blue Moon City, haven't played it, but heard good things. Mage Knight, we need to play that. I know we need to play that. We just haven't yet. Then there's Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which I desperately want to. I think that would be a lot of fun for Amanda and I to do together, just as a couple. I think that would be cool. Promised Land, really an obscure Ragnar Brother topic. Just it grabbed me, and so picked it up. Haven't played it yet. DR Congo, I've heard a lot of good things about. Some of the modules you probably don't want to incorporate if you're not really big into randomness, but as a whole, really good. Watson and Holmes, we actually got from our Secret Santa last year, which I promise, our heavy cardboard Secret Santa, or Secret Davis, I guess. I promise we will have that played before Secret Santa opens, because that wouldn't be right otherwise. And then more Ameritrash, Firefly, War of the Ring, which all of these, I don't like Firefly. Amanda loves the show. I enjoy the show, so she likes it. And I promised Amanda that we would play more Eclipse, and we haven't, so boo on me. I will fix that. But Firefly, I wish we could get rid of it. Amanda won't let me. There are people within our kind of the outer fringes of our group that will play it with her. So please, people, play that with her, please. And I will. I'm willing. I just... War of the Ring, I really want to get to the table. Runebound, all of those. You guys can read them. I've heard good things about all those games. So, and then, last but not least, the bottom left shelf is all games that we want to play and decide whether or not we're going to review. There you go. And the bottom right is actually more filler that we didn't have room for. Yeah. Yep. Whew. That was a long tour. Thank you guys for hanging out, though. Hopefully I've made your afternoon or evening or possibly late at night if you're overseas enjoyable. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun for me. Went on way longer than I expected. Although, let's face it, y'all know me by now, and I know me, but I think I was just lying to myself that, oh yeah, an hour. I don't know. I said an hour to two. We both knew, didn't we? We really did. Whatever. We had fun. I had fun. And seeing as y'all are still watching, you're either, maybe you got bit by a spider and you can't move your arm to move your mouse to click off of it, or you enjoyed it. Bit by a mouse? Really? I meant spider. Blaming the drugs again. All right, that's it. 2.5 hours since we got started, about 15 minutes late. Yeah. All right. So that's it. So here's a question for you, Tony. Tony Boydell there. He says it's 10:45 p.m. or 22:45 as we call it, because we're trying to be cognizant of folks over in Europe who use the 24-hour clock. He says, here in North Wales. I mean, that's oddly specific. Like, do you call it that amongst yourselves, or are you saying where that is for us dumb Americans? Or is it like not just here in Wales, but here in North Wales? I'm curious. I mean, not being sarcastic. I genuinely don't know. I'm curious. All right. So 2 things real quick before we bug out while Tony answers that. Number 1, I'm going to do one more of these. It's going to be considerably shorter because there's just 18XX stuff, Splotter, and the Martin Wallace collection, as well as our new arrivals, and kind of a little tour of the gaming, of the basement, the gaming area, and the whole 9 yards. So I will do that It'll either be next Wednesday or the following Wednesday. I'm not sure which, but you'll know in the weekly look ahead which it's going to be. And secondly, for those that were interested in the survey results and the giveaways, the 5 giveaways that we're doing, once this ends, 15 minutes, I will start a new live stream. There isn't going to be a scheduled one. It's just going to be, hey, we're live. So subscribe, like, whatever, and then next to it, there's a little bell icon that'll alert you that, oh, hey, they're live. So it'll send you a little update. So 15 minutes, or just go to our page and look for the live one. Something, whatever. Anyway, while I'm waiting, Oh, Tony says I'm working away for the week. Plus, North Wales is where Mount Snowdon is, hence Snowdonia. Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of which, I hope you saved the 1 copy of the expansion for me. Please. Oh, I said spider bite. Couldn't move mouse. Okay, yeah, I did it right. See, drugs. Yeah, whatever. Whatever. So, all right. Yeah, that's crazy. This went way too long, but it seems folks enjoyed it. So I appreciate y'all spending the afternoon with me. It was fun, and hopefully now you see what our collection is, or at least most of it. Something. So I'm out of here. Thanks everybody for watching. Our patron drive is going on. PledgeHC.com is our website for the patron drive. So if that's something that you want to support, whether it's, more stuff like this, maybe not this long and rambly, but if you want to support our show, whether it's the live streams, the podcasts, a mix of, or stuff like this, consider supporting us. We really would appreciate it. PledgeHC.com. This is going on through November 4th. You get a chance to win a Duchess gaming table that we're giving away at the end of the pledge drive. Our patrons get discounts at Meeple Realty. They get discounts at Game Surplus. Plus, it's a really badass community that has grown up. I mean, you see a bunch of them in chat today. It's just a really, really cool community. And I'll be honest, we would appreciate your support. There are 446 when I get started. I guess there's more. So thank you. $2 makes a difference. The drawing's for all at $5 or higher a month. So yeah, enough plugging it. You guys get the idea. Appreciate it, y'all. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So I'll see y'all in 15 minutes. All right, cool. Thanks everybody for joining me.